Welcome to the Mindset Chick podcast. If you are looking to stop settling and want to gain the clarity and confidence to manifest the life and biz of your dreams, then this show is for you. I'm your host, Christy Deer, sharing with you simple yet powerful and effective mindset tips that will allow you to attract more abundance, prosperity, and success into your life. So get ready, get excited, and let's go manifest some amazing things together. Hey, and welcome back to the Mindset Chick podcast. I am so happy to have you here. And today we have a very special guest, one of my friends and somebody that I do coaching with. She is just so much love and light. She has really helped me a lot to see things differently, release a lot of emotions and thoughts and past stuff, junk that I didn't even know I had, to open my eyes to a new world of just expanding and growth, and just really taught me a lot of things along the way. I really value her opinions and insight. And I've talked to her a lot about being frustrated and angry and how you deal with that when you are on this spiritual path and this spiritual journey, and how that fits in. And, do we stop being angry? Do we stop being frustrated? The more enlightened we get and the more spiritual growth we have. And I just really loved the way that she responded to me on that, and how she talked about these feelings and emotions and how they can actually be healthy. And so I am so excited to welcome Stasia Bliss today to our podcast. Stasia is a Life-force Management Educator, healer, empowerment coach, oracle, and conscious mental health practitioner who specializes in relationship work. She sees all relationships as beginning with the inner relationship we have with the self, and which then reflects in our intimate relationships with children, family, and friends, and extends out into our relationships with our communities, the collective of humanity, the earth, and finally, our relationship with Source. Her experience in assisting with understanding and integrating on expansion of life force energy and how that can improve our personal lives and relationships spans over 20 years. Stasia brings her studies, travels, wisdoms, and insights to you in order to support the self-realization journey of you and your families, as well as ascension and evolution for humanity at large. She is a multi-time published author and speaker on various platforms. You can find her online courses, books, videos, articles, podcasts, and book sessions with her on her website, blissinthehouse.com. So Stasia, it's so good to have you on this podcast and actually have you back. You've been on here before on episode 52, number 52.
Yay.
So yay.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to be back.
Yes. And I was just looking at the title of that one. It said, how to use your setbacks and fears to guide you into your purpose. And so that was such a great episode too. I really enjoyed that.
Yes, I love that talk. And we're sort of doing a different angle of that today.
Yes, exactly. So I really wanted you on this podcast because I feel it's so important to discuss emotions like anger and frustration. I feel like when people are doing these mindset practices and when they're really trying to grow spiritually and they're trying to be more connected and they're trying to just be a better person overall, that when these emotions come up, it can be really challenging. It can be conflicting because, part of them could say, well, I shouldn't be angry. I shouldn't be upset. I shouldn't be frustrated. I feel like I'm growing spiritually. I feel like I'm becoming a better person. I feel like I'm letting go of thoughts and feelings that aren't serving me. Like, why am I still frustrated? And why am I still angry? And it can turn into a shame and guilt. And
Absolutely.
I think this is so huge. I really wanted to discuss this. Yeah. And so I wanted to ask you, the first question is, when someone is trying to become more spiritually enlightened and awakened and everything I mentioned, how do they control these feelings?
Wow. Well, so I love this conversation, Christy. I'm so happy we're talking about it. As you said, I think it's so important right now. And there is a lot of conflict, even in the spiritual community, as far as these so-called negative emotions and how do we deal with them? How do we look at them And how do we live not judging ourselves and still having regular human emotions? So I guess the first part of that question, I like to break down anger, not necessarily the answer, how can I control it, but rather to look at there's, I think, stages of anger. Like one stage of anger can be very destructive. And usually this is a place that someone might be before they're doing what you say, like becoming more spiritual, where that emotion of anger can either come out like emotionally or physically damaging to other people, or we can actually hold it in. And that can be just as damaging to ourselves. Physically, that can manifest as some kind of an illness or disease when we don't express something that we really feel. So then the second part of that, I feel like once we get a little more enlightened, then we kind of do what I call restrained spurts, where we feel the anger, we don't really want to, and then we can't hold it anymore. And it tries to, like, it spurts out at something, and then we just judge ourselves about it, right? Mm-hmm. So we're trying to figure out like what we do with that. So what I like to lead people into is a power source anger, empowered anger. So what this means to me is recognizing that it is a powerful emotion. It's actually a fuel and a power source if we understand what it is. And that if somebody is invoking that feeling in us, then it's actually an opportunity for empowerment. It's an opportunity for us to look at, hey, have I been calling power into my life somewhere? And if I have, how can this opportunity of this anger that I feel be a fuel for the very thing I want to get done? That makes sense. So to channel that fuel for me, like a lot of times when I get angry, I allow myself to put it right into cleaning my house. And I like clean my house better than I ever normally do because of the fuel of the anger. And I always like turn and I thank the person who got me mad. I'm like, thank you so much. I really need to clean my house. And I just channel that anger into something, that's helpful to me.
Yeah, that's so good. And I like that you just said, I thank the person who got me angry.
Mm-hmm. I do feel like it's a soul contract. Like, I feel like every relationship is alchemical in nature, whether it's an intimate relationship or not, in that we're all here to help each other become more realized, to wake up, to evolve our consciousness in one way or another. And I call it soul contracts. Somebody might call it something else. You might look at it as karma, but based on you guys are attracted to each other for some reason. If it's a friendship, if it's coworker, you're in each other's life for a reason. And, buttons get pushed, and I think it takes a very strong person to push our button, because our buttons are sort of safeguarded time release mechanisms for our opportunities to initiate growth. And so if someone pushes one, then I think, wow, that person's a really effective, powerful person in my life. And I've learned to really appreciate them.
Ooh, that's a really good way to look at it. Because a lot of times, people are like, gosh, that person is so frustrating. Why are they making me so angry? And they're, upset with them because they don't want to bring out that part of them.
Sure. But that's kind of a disempowering way to look at it, I think. Like, if I'm not feeling empowered, then I don't want that perspective. My whole goal is, how can I be the most empowered? And that's totally up to me. So I can give my power away and make it their fault I'm angry, or I can take my power back and make it, this is an opportunity I must have wisely invoked so that I could get to the next piece in myself.
Yeah. And I like that you said that. So on that, do you feel like, I guess people come into our lives, like you said, everybody has that soul contract and, those relationships that we draw into our life. So let's say like somebody is really making us frustrated or angry and, we're feeling these feelings, maybe we're lashing out. Like you're saying that could be a positive because maybe it's something within us that we've called on, or like there's something within us that we need to deal with.
So again, there's a couple of different layers here. So sometimes we don't have the luxury of immediately understanding why that anger is coming up. Like, it kind of takes over our brain for a minute and we really just feel like the raw emotion of anger. So the best thing we can do is educate ourselves ahead of time and recognize, first of all, this isn't something I want to hold within myself, because anger can actually turn into a very toxic emotion and can contribute to situations even like cancer in the body that's unexpressed, like bottled up, held in anger that ends up eating us up inside. So the first thing we want to realize is, no, I don't want to keep this inside. I don't want to unvalidate it. I don't want to say, no, I'm too big for anger. I'm not feeling it. We want to first like acknowledge that we're feeling it. There's some really good techniques that I have used in the past that maybe were like before I was able to truly see the gift in it right away. And one of them was called hitting the bag.
No.
So I had like a giant bag of rice. And, I see this with a lot of people who really like to come across as they are really good and they never get mad. And they're really like my sisters or some of these people where they just really want to be good people. They're Christian people. They don't want to show anger. They want to just, like work it through in themselves, but it's still in them. And they can't maybe see like how it's benefiting them yet, but they need to get it out. So we get a stick and it's kind of like a martial arts move where you just make like a loud hiya and you just whack the bag of rice and you just allow yourself to, first of all, feel the power that is actually behind that anger. And that's something most people don't realize, is that they could, like touch into that anger and be like, whoa, like that's actually a big energy in me. I didn't realize. And so that can be a very powerful way of just showing yourself that this is raw fuel.
Yes.
Right?
And, Louise Hayes she talks about, you can heal your body and like how our emotions are tied to different ailments in our body, like you were just talking about. And she said that, healthy ways of expressing are just going to your car and screaming or, hitting your pillow on your bed. And also, she doesn't say this, I don't think, but, for me, it's exercise a lot. We do in my boot camp class, we do med ball slams, which is getting a medicine ball, 15, 20 pound medicine ball and just bringing it up and slamming it. And there's times when I'm like, you know what, this is a really good way to get out frustration. Even if I come into the class and I'm not even in a bad mood or feeling frustrated, I'm thinking, well, I can just slam it. So if there is anything, I can just like slam it as hard as I can. And every time after, whether I'm doing maybe that workout or other workouts, I feel like it's just getting out this energy and it feels so good. And so I guess what you're saying is like, sometimes people push it down. Like, I want to be a good Christian. I want to be a good person. I shouldn't get mad. Somebody just really irritated me, but I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to just bite my tongue and I'm not going to say anything. And so you're saying that can do a lot of harm, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you think about the quality of anger, it's often associated with the planet Mars or red, and it's fire. Actually, it's the fire element in us. And so if we hold on to fire, I mean, what can happen? We can get burned. And so that anger in us is a powerful energy. I think of like life force energy changes forms. Sometimes it's fire, sometimes it's like solid grounding energy. Sometimes it like can blow through and, it has all these different elemental qualities. And the ways that you just mentioned, like the workout is awesome. I feel like anything that can take that energy and channel it into something that is like helping our life, which exercise does. Exercise channels that fire into a usable energy, which passion and like warriors, like movements and so forth are also associated with that Martian sort of, fiery energy.
Yes.
But then the other things like screaming, even though that can feel really good, and sometimes we just have to do it. We just have to let it out and scream. It almost is like it disperses it a little bit, but it also sort of like, it doesn't allow us the same sort of channeling capacity that I'm looking for. Like, I'm not saying don't ever do that. That can feel really good sometimes, but it can also really hurt your throat. Like I've really hurt my vocal cords.
Think about that.
I've hurt my vocal cords and I'm like, dang, I don't know if that was like a really great way to use my anger. But to be able to find something that you need a push behind, like it could be your work, it could be an art project, it could be something you just have been putting off and putting off and putting off. If you can take the opportunity to use that fuel, I challenge the listeners next time you feel angry to sit with it for a minute and recognize, like stripped away from the emotional quality and the person who made it happen, just feel into the energy of that anger and recognize it as a very powerful fuel, that it is raw power and it's up to you what you're going to do with it. And if you don't choose, this is where it can, come out detrimentally. If you don't choose wisely, you may lash out at someone, you may do something destructive, or you may hurt yourself holding it in. And so the powerful part is like deciding, like getting to be the one who decides where you're going to put it and then see how powerful you really are.
Yeah, I love that. And so if somebody is just feeling like, let's say they're feeling like they've had some outbursts of frustration and anger, maybe at their significant other or a friend or family member, and maybe they're listening and right now they're like, I'm in a good mood. I'm not really, angry, but that person triggers me and I get angry and I've lashed out and I've, we've had these discussions and I don't want to go down that path again. I really don't want them to trigger me and frustrate me this much. Like, I really want to stay in this good place. Like, maybe what are some techniques? Like, how could somebody, I guess, get to the root of it and like start clearing it before it happens again?
Okay, sure. Those are really good questions. So, if there's someone that's particularly triggering to us, like I said before, I feel like there's something there, like they have an ability to push buttons in us. So for myself, what I always do is look at like, they make me angry. They make me feel this way. First of all, I look at what the benefit of that is to me. Like, what is the benefit of this to me that I would feel this way? Like, what do I do when I feel this way that I wouldn't normally do? And sometimes it does motivate you. It makes you do something different. It like makes you change your course, and you can like write a list of things that why it's beneficial for you to feel that way. And then I also like to turn it around on myself. Like, where do I do that to someone else? Where might somebody else feel that about me? Like, where might I ignite somebody else in that way? And do I think that's a good thing? Like, why am I doing that? How does that benefit them? If I'm pushing their buttons, like to kind of get the flip side of the story and realize, like we all have the capacity to do that to each other. And it's a very like normal, basic human emotion that we all feel. And so to kind of like look at it that way, it sort of takes the personal charge off of it. And then you might also just say like, maybe that person's bringing it up because I just haven't loved that part of me. Like, this is my favorite part is, like if we don't love that part of us too, then we're really saying, I only love myself when I'm good to other people, when I'm happy, when I do smart things, when I'm nice, then I accept myself. But if I ever get angry, then I actually don't like myself. I think I'm less of a person. I think I'm not as enlightened. That's the shadow work part. That is like that person is giving you the opportunity to love the part of you that can get angry too, that's just as valid a part of you and isn't really meant to be like erased from your personality. Like I feel like the emotions, once we get a handle on the fact that we have all of them sometimes, we don't necessarily need to go to huge extremes in any direction, but that's what makes us human is our emotions. Then we can just sort of like play in the playground of them. In other words, like emotions become more like our artistic expression or like our way of just feeling life rather than like moving from something we would prefer to something we don't like.
Yeah, that was so good. I really like that. I was taking that all in. I was really taking that all in. And I really resonated with where you said, love that part of you. I think that it's so huge because I think, we don't want to walk around being angry and argumentative and upset, but I feel like in our society, it's very shameful to be like angry. You see, you see those videos now, like sometimes on Facebook where they're like, oh, look at this girl. She's getting angry at the checkout at Walmart. And then they're shaming people and making fun of them for getting angry and upset. And people are watching going, oh my gosh, look at her. And I've thought about that a lot because I'm like, okay, if it's a normal part of our emotions, people can be so judgmental and shaming other people. And then I feel like that's where we get the shame for ourselves. And I'm not saying it's okay to be, aggressive or threatening or rude to somebody, but it is a normal part of our emotions. But I think that it can be so shameful when somebody gets upset. Instead of looking at it like, you know what, they must be hurt or something's going on or they're not feeling heard or they're feeling, frustrated, they're feeling isolated, they're feeling alone. Like,
well, I can't help but think of the scripture I grew up learning, which said, if he who is without sin cast the first stone, or if you looking at the beam in your brother's eye or mote in your brother's eye, don't you have a beam in your eye? It's funny how we're so easy to judge each other. But the truth is, none of us are without anger. Like if you never, ever get angry, okay, then I guess you have something to say to that person that gets angry. But I doubt anyone making fun is never going to get angry and never gets angry. So what it's pointing out is it's actually an opportunity for all of us to go, well, at least that person is willing to show it. We've become sort of like a emotionally repressed society or very emotionally judgmental. And that's actually the issue I see with our quote unquote mental health industry. It's actually like a shaming or like a belittling of a whole half of the human character. And we want to drug it away. We want to therapy it away. We want to, heal it away instead of integrating. And like the only reason these emotions distort themselves into being such a big thing is because we're not integrating them. We're not loving them too and allowing them to fall into their normal expression, which I think if we were normally just expressing everything we felt, it wouldn't be so huge. It wouldn't be like tidal waves, right?
Yeah. Instead of maybe shaming the anger, like you said, integrating it and learning how to cope with it, learning that, like you just said, like if somebody's triggering us, maybe they're bringing out a part of us that we need to work through or that we've called upon, like realizing it's kind of like trying to think about like the word I would use, but I'm kind of moving my hands like in this flow, right? This balance, this relationship, this yin and yang kind of thing,
Definitely. Well, I think culturally we have a big opportunity right now. Like everyone's suppressed emotions are coming out all over the place. And we see a lot of what we might say is ugly, but when we really like let ourselves become self-responsible and go, well, you know what? This has been under the surface all along. This has been the unspoken stuff all along. I know I grew up in a family which was very, Christian, but like we weren't allowed to show anger and like hate to each other. It was, like of the devil or whatever. But, what I realized is that suppressed a lot of what I really felt over the years. And it took me some time in my adult life to come to terms with those emotions and realize, you know what? They aren't so big when I just allow them their proper place. Like if I give them their proper place, they actually can become servants to me. And like I said, my anger now fuels my house cleaning.
Well, that's a good, healthy way. Yeah. And maybe you could think about that. Like if I get angry, like what's something I could do, like kind of association thing, So sometimes people get angry, they don't know what to do, or they just repeat the same habits, like lash out and get upset. But maybe replacing that with something else. Okay. When somebody makes me angry or, triggers me, I guess I should say, we have the choice to get angry. But when somebody I feel like is triggering me, I'm getting angry, I'm getting frustrated, I'm bottling up. What can I associate? Like, what could I do? Like, what's a healthy outlet? Like, I like how you said clean the house. And maybe somebody listening could go, okay, I'm going to go draw. I'm going to go paint. I'm going to go meditate. I'm going to go do some tapping. I'm going to go do some journaling and associate it with something else.
Sure.
I just thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I like to ask people, like, what's something in your life that you just can't motivate yourself to do, but you need to do? Like, what's something that you're just like,
declutter, probably.
Yeah. And if
maybe declutter.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, it's so true. Like working in my yard sometimes in like the really hard soil, like I barely have energy to do that sometimes. I'm just like, no, thank you, pass, but it needs to be done. But when something like anger comes up, it's like suddenly you have access to resources in yourself that you didn't before. And I'm like, let's not waste that. Let's use that for the things that we normally are like wanting to do, but just can't get ourselves to do. Anger is such a powerful fuel for those things. And I mean, you can find yourself with superhuman strength with anger. I mean, like not normal strength. And so, like if we start to sort of shift our perception of this feeling and this emotion and recognize the potency, then, I mean, countries change because people get angry, relationships shift because someone really got angry and like you had to deal with it. Like it has a transformative force behind it. if we can learn to honor it. And of course, it's not something we're going to have to dinner every day. Like we want to be angry all the time, but there is an anger that's lingering or that's coming up a lot. It might just mean, hey, I haven't learned to integrate. I haven't embraced that part of me and found its value yet.
Yeah, that's really good. I love that. So Stasia, what is a mantra or a quote that you love to live by?
I think I've shared this with you before, and I actually use this for everything, positive and negative, because I feel like it's all part of one. But my mantra is, this too is bliss.
Ooh.
And when some people first hear that, they think, well, how could anger be bliss? Or how could hurt or heartache be bliss? And I always trace it back to the Sanskrit word of the is bliss, which is ananda. And in my learnings in India, the physical body is just one of our bodies. We actually have like a Russian doll stacked energetic body that is our pranic body, life force. We have a mental body, emotional body. We have a wisdom body. And the biggest body they speak of is called the Anandamaya Kosha, which is the bliss body. And when I really learned about this, I thought, it isn't about bliss, the ecstatic state where everything is so perfect and you're just in like la la land. But no, rather bliss is actually our natural state, and it is holy and it contains everything. And it really just is the state of ultimate acceptance and like crowning of the self, where you realize, yes, everything is purposeful. It's holy. It's elevated. It's divine. And when I remember that, then yes, even this anger can give me access to that bliss. This too is bliss. And so the more I said that to myself, the more I realized how true it was and how powerful it's been over the years. That's my mantra, Christy. This too is bliss.
I love that. This too is bliss. I love that. I'm going to say that too.
Yeah, it really is good. And especially if you're having a hard moment and you like really say it through that moment, it really helps transform some hard moments. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Stasia, this has been incredible. I love it. So many good nuggets and just wisdom. And I mean, I'm really glad that we talked about this. I think it's so needed. And
I agree.
Yeah, really. And just knowing that, people knowing they're not alone for having these emotions and feelings, and
absolutely,
it's part of life.
It's part of life. Yes, it is. And the more we can love that about ourselves too, actually, the more we mellow out, we balance out, we find access to the peace that we all want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so good. So how can people connect with you more?
Well, I love it. You can find me on YouTube. I have my own channel, Stasia Bliss. You can find me on Facebook. You can also find me on my website, blissinthehouse.com, or you can go to my app page, which is the web link, blissme.passion.io. And I'm actually downloading a brand new course right now, which you might love, called Navigating the Dark Side of Love. And it was inspired by this conversation. Actually, we're going through all the different sort of negative aspects of relationship, including anger, including heartbreak, betrayal, invalidation, all these things. So if you want to jump into that, it's a pre-launch. You can find that again at blissme.passion.io and jump into that course or any of the other courses that I have available there. And thank you so much for having me on the show.
You're so welcome. Yeah, we can link that to the podcast, that website.
Okay, awesome.
That would be great. That sounds like a great course. Well, yes, always a pleasure having you. And thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
And remember, friend, to dream big, follow your heart, and never give up on you, because you're worth it.
Thank you for joining me today on the Mindset Chick podcast. I hope this show has you waking up every morning excited about the new manifestations you have created in your life. And if you would honor me with a 5-star review over in iTunes, I will happily enter your name in my Mindset Chick swag giveaway. Make sure you add your name to the review and I will reach out to you if you're the winner. I really appreciate you spending your time with me. Be sure to visit me at mindsetchick.com for past episodes and more gifts that will help you to manifest your dreams into reality.